Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. How you doing, Coach Harvey? Questions from Coach? Can you describe your sense of relief after getting the word yesterday?
It was a tremendous sense of relief. So Joe and myself, we had a chance to go visit him last night too, and he's in great spirits. Supposed to get out today and just get a chance to get him back to being Cam. So, but obviously a big sigh of relief.
Do you have any idea, like football, like how soon, or if that's in the
We're not
cards?
there yet. We're not there yet. Just yeah, we're not there yet.
Robert, this is obviously a very young team, fifth youngest, I believe, in the NFL, and you're a first-year head coach. And I'm just curious, what do you think about how the youth and potential inexperience, how can that factor into this season? And what are reasonable expectations for a team that's averaging basically under 25 years old?
You know, the expectation internally is to dominate the things you've got control over. And these guys have a tremendous amount of character in that they want to get better every day. So ideally we're getting better every single day. You know, obviously this is a production business, and we want to see wins and we want to see a lot of production. But at the same time, you don't want that to cloud your vision of what gets those things, and that's the process. And with a young group like this, there's the emphasis on process and showing up every day and being deliberate in the way you work and understanding that there's ways to get better, even if it's mundane and you're doing the same thing that you've been doing since the first day you arrived in OTAs. It doesn't matter. You can find a way to get a little bit better at your technique. You can find a way to absorb the playbook a little bit better. There's just a lot of different things that you can do as an individual to get better. So with a young team, the focus is on the process and finding ways to get better and be relentless in our pursuit to get better and just play with your hair on fire, learn from the mistakes, and let's keep rolling.
What are the injury updates on Jabari, Juma, and then also Barrett Tucker?
So, yes, Jabari had an ankle. He's day-to-day. Chuma had I believe, a right pec strain. He's also going to be more day-to-day. And then Chuma's dealing with a knee. That's going to be a little bit longer, probably a week or so.
Obviously, you like to rotate quarterbacks. Obviously, Brandon Echols was one of the ones today. What have you seen from him that led you to let him run with the ones today?
You know, Echols is playing. He's got really nice. He's got good foot speed. He plays big. He plays strong, and he's been able to absorb all the things that have been coming at him. So he's been doing a great job versus twos and threes, and wanted to give him some run with the ones just to see how he measures up. And thought he held his own out there. We'll get a chance to see in detail on the tape, but you're going to see more of those rookies get thrown in there to give them a shot to go compete. It's the same thing on the D-line, same thing at the linebacker level. So with all this youth, there's a lot of guys who are chomping at the bit to get some run, and we're going to give them those ops.
More a product of wanting to get into work versus Bryce not doing something you wanted to see?
More of a product to give them more run, for sure.
How do you describe your group of running backs here? I mean, obviously, Mike, the system is a committee kind of a system, and you're familiar with Tevin at that. But how would you describe kind of the diversity you have here?
You know, it's an unknown group in that people they look at the names and they really don't. They'll assume there's not much, but you know, Ty Johnson is an explosive back. P. Ryan is a powerful back. Josh Adams is a speed burner. Walter is showing that he's got the ability to play in this league, and he shows speed and power. Michael Carter's got great agility and burst. Tevin Coleman, obviously, and then am I missing someone? I'm not sure I'm missing, but they all have a dynamic trait to them that can be pretty good in the system, especially with the way the offensive line works and the way the way the zone scheme works, and them working one gap at a time. And you know, so we're excited about this group. You know, especially with our O-line and their ability to block up front, create space, and we'll see what happens. Especially these preseason games are going to be awesome.
Robert, they had a pretty good day today in that 7-on-7 red zone drill. From a tight end perspective is concerned, we haven't heard too much of Chris Herndon in camp this year. I mean, I was just curious what you've kind of seen from him, if there's an area you'd like to see him improve, just things like that, because I know he hasn't flashed necessarily all that much.
No, so the tight end position is really hard to absorb in this system, because the emphasis on blocking is even more so. You're not just a receiver, so to just put him out in space and let him go work, you don't get as many ops. But when you do get your ops, obviously they're you got to learn the whole other side of it with regards to the pass game. So it's going to be different than what he's used to. He's shown some flashes. He's done a lot of really good things, and that tight end group in general, when you look at Croft and Griff and obviously your Bows, their West Coast getting some run also, and Herndon, it's a good dynamic group, and they're trying to find their niche. But to answer your question on Herndon, it's again, his process has been really good. The production's going to come.
Formulating who you wanted on your staff, why was Mike LaFleur the guy you wanted to run your offense?
So first and foremost, I've been very, very fortunate. I don't know how many years it's been in the league, but over half of my years in the league has been attached to this Shanahan system, dating all the way back to Kubiak, who was running a version of Papa Shanahan's system, and going against that system, for me, it's always the hardest one to go against. The way they strain you in the run game, pass game, and all the way they attack your rules is very hard. And then getting a chance to work with him over the last 4 years and just watch him present in front of the group, watch him interact with Kyle, listen to him talk to the quarterbacks, the receivers, it was really a no-brainer. I mean, he's been more than ready, and just really excited for him to get this opportunity.
Is it weird for you because you knew him when he was a kid?
I mean, it's him and his beautiful wife Lauren. I mean, no, we'd go to the ice cream when Matt LaFleur. Funny story. Matt LaFleur played quarterback for the Omaha Beef, and me, Mike, and Lauren, who's his wife, became best friends, and we'd go to Doozy's, get some ice cream, and watch the Detroit Pistons during the playoffs. So I've known him for a long time.
Robert, what went into the decision to bring Josh Johnson in?
So Josh Johnson, again, we were with him in San Fran. He's a tremendous pro. He's got a tremendous amount of energy to him. He knows our system. And as far as just understanding the whys of our system, the hows of our system, and how to be a pro, just to bring that into the room and as a presence. You know, he's a fantastic human being and someone that we've been talking to throughout OTAs, and just really glad that we were able to get him in here. He's a big plus. He's a big addition to that quarterback room, so we're excited to have him.
We've asked you a bunch about veteran quarterbacks. Was this now? Did you just feel like that was something you guys needed at this time?
You know, no. It's when I want to make sure I say this the correct way. So Josh, obviously, he'll be here. He's going to get his work in, but we're not going to stop the development of James Morgan and Mike White. They're getting their run. They're getting their practice reps. They're going to get the preseason games and all that stuff. Not to say Josh won't, but obviously he's got to spend these next couple of weeks catching back up and learning the nuances of this scheme as opposed to Kyle's. It shouldn't take him long, but over these next couple of weeks and making sure that these quarterbacks, Mike and James, get every opportunity to showcase what they've done and showcase to everybody how good they've gotten. And
why now, as opposed to not bringing him in at the start of camp? You know, so he could have a longer runway into the camp.
Yeah, no, that's so. When you're, there's always numbers involved, right? It's very. When you look at the 90-man roster, like who are you going to cut, who are you going to pull from? All of those certain things come into play, and knowing that Josh was available and knowing that Josh has recall of our system, we weren't pressed to try to bring him in. But when you look at the overall 90-man roster, there's just numbers limitations with regards to being able to bring him in here.
I know we've asked about Denzel Mims a few times, but it's kind of jarring to see him with the third team after there's a lot of expectations last year at this time for him. You know, what is it now for him? You know, what does he have to do to kind of get back in the mix of those starters?
You know, he's gotten some run with the starters too. He goes with the 1s, 2s, 3s. I think the only couple of receivers who don't go with anyone other than the 1s is I think it's Corey and Keelan. Otherwise, all of them are getting run with all different. So we look at it by which quarterbacks they're getting thrown to, and so he's gotten a chance to get some from Zach, James, and Mike, and so when you look at Denzel, it's going to be the same for everybody on the roster. There's things you've got control over. There's things you don't have control over, and for Denzel, just focus on the things he's got control over, because every second he worries about anything else, and this is for everybody. If you worry about anything else, you can't exhaust your energy on yourself. And so he's been doing a really good job. He's put together some really good practices here, and he's earning more and more shots and opportunities at getting some balls thrown as well.
How's his route running?
It's good. He's, you know, again, it's different because in this system we are much tighter and we're more in a phone booth as wide receivers. So you've got to show more. It's not just playing out in space and having easy releases and having wiggle room. There's a lot more fighting for leverage. There's a lot more your lower half comes into play a heck of a lot more, especially when you're in the phone booth. And then there's the blocking aspect of it and the strain that we ask these guys to block front side and backside. So his route running is improving because it's different because he's coming in from a different location than what he's used to being out there with normal spacing. But he's getting better. I mean, like I said, he's put together a couple of good days, and he's working his tail off.
Do players ever ask you what a phone booth is?
You know, if they don't, I know. I mean, it's, you know, I hope they do.
You're known as like a fiery, passionate guy on the sidelines during the games, but during practices and camp, you seem kind of like mild-mannered or taking everything in. I'm just curious as your approach to, you know, some coaches you hear them, you know, yelling a mile away. What's your approach?
So I was actually talking to Albrecht. I was like, you know, this kind of sucks because when somebody makes a play, like, who am I supposed to cheer for, right? So there's, but at the same time, I've never been a big yeller on the practice field, and I'm not really a yeller on the game during the games either. It's more of, and I've said it to y'all before, when you exhaust so much time and energy, and you see how hard these players work, and you know what they're putting you know what they're putting into it, and those big time moments happen in those games, and you see that player who both of you have just exhausted hours of time just for that one play, and you see success, you can't help but feel jubilation for that young man because you know what it took to get to that point. And so that's kind of what you see on game day. But on the football field, it's trying to take in as much to help these guys. It's all about teaching. It's all about trying to find ways to help them get better so they can make those plays on Sunday.
What's your philosophy, Robert? Sort of along the same lines of like penalty laps or penalty push-ups or doing kind of like disciplinary things in practice, like that sort of stuff.
You know, there's many ways to do it. There are many ways to do it. For me, you know, it's more of accountability. Try to create accountability with self rather than forcing accountability. These players are grown men, and that to give them the opportunity to correct it themselves will always happen first. Obviously, there's going to be coaching. You know, they're not trying to make the mistake. All we can do is help them understand how the mistake was made, so they don't do it again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.